So let us talk about the psychiatric industrial complex. Finally, I have enough courage to talk about this, and I'm not going to make any claims that you've not heard of. And of course, a disclaimer, I'm not an expert. I am just somebody who's interested in mental health, and I'm a person who struggled with a lot of issues in my life, and I sought out professional help, and I've read a bunch on the issue, and I watched a lot of content. But I am by no means an expert on any of these topics, so take whatever I say with a grain of salt. Anything that concerns your health ultimately should be up to you to decide, and of course, you should hear the advice of professionals, and you should try to do your best to distinguish lies from the truth. But all of this aside, I have been so greatly disillusioned with the state of the psychiatric industrial complex. Of course, I'm aware of the fact that any kind of industry under capitalism is going to only be serving the ruling class, which is the bourgeoisie in our modern world. And I know that no industry is ever going to be able to provide, an actual scientific basis for the people in need. But I'm just so appalled at the fact that the psychiatric industrial complex, to me, okay, that's my personal opinion. In many regards, it is witchcraft, or at best, it is filled with magical thinking and outdated concepts that basically has no basis in material reality. And a lot of the terminology and a lot of the research that they use has been debunked and has been proven to be harmful. And I'm going to give you just a couple of examples. You probably are aware of the fact that DSM-5 is the manual, the book that's used for diagnosing psychiatric conditions in the US. But in many other parts of the world, we use another book, which is ICD, or MKB, as we call it in Russian. So it is also a manual. And I looked into both of these. I didn't read them like cover to cover, but I looked into both of these, and they do have a lot of overlap. So when you read some of the diagnostic criteria in DSM and ICM, it's so funny. Like, they use outdated vocabulary. They use diagnoses that are based on sexism, that are based on ableism and racism, and that are basically not true at all. And they're so misogynist and they're so racist in so many regards. And a lot of people I listen to who work in the industry, who are psychiatrists or therapists themselves, they talked about how a lot of the data that they are kind of forced to use does not correlate with the experiences that they have as clinicians or as academics or as researchers. And like, the data takes so much time to like inch its way into these manuals, and all of the processes are so convoluted and they take so much time, and it's all like drowned in bureaucracy and whatnot. But there's been so much criticism of these particular field of study, more specifically diagnosing people with mental illnesses, that I'm not even going to like delve into this. What I'm going to briefly mention, however, is the fact that a lot of the things that are pathologized nowadays under the modern state of the psychiatric industrial complex is due to the fact that we live in a capitalist dystopia. Like, a lot of the people who are diagnosed with depression and anxiety pretty much react this way because of the way they live, because this lifestyle is absolutely not related to the way our bodies operate. It's not fulfilling to our basic human needs. And of course, I talked a lot about how capitalism creates the cult of productivity, and it's a cult of greed, and everybody knows that this is a death cult basically. But it's just so astounding to see that the psychiatric industrial complex perpetuates all of these myths and all of the racism and misogyny. I'll give you one example of misogyny, which I have been recently exposed to myself. They still use, in the lands here where we use ICM, they still use the term hysterical. And of course, they use it applying to women. So DSM, as far as I know, got rid of hysteria and anything connected to it way back when. I think it was the American Psychological or Psychiatric Association, I don't remember the name of the organization, that got rid of hysteria because it was not based on any kind of evidence, and it was pretty much a condemning word to describe women who acted in a way that didn't conform to the patriarchal, exploitative societies they were a part of. But ICM still uses this word, and that's just insane to me. Like, why? Who in the world would use that? I mean, my husband had a good question about this. Like, do they use this describing men? Because if they do, like, imagine the outrage if a man is called hysterical. And there's so many issues, and there's such lack of people who actually have had lived experiences. They had pretty much no say in the development of all of these modes and modalities of therapy. They have no say in any kind of, they pretty much have no agency over their own lives, and they're being infantilized. And the people with any kind of mental health or neurological conditions are basically just like discarded as lesser humans, and they're treated as such as well. And it's just so upsetting to me to see how supposedly in this field that is meant to help, we are seeing such a devastation. And I know in all the medical circles it's pretty much the same. The medical industrial complex is very well known for not caring for people and not caring for, anything other than profits. And if you read Freud and his colleagues and Lacan and those more Marxist psychiatrists and psychologists and therapists who made a lot of discoveries about how the nervous system operates and how our psyche operates, and then seeing the state of the industry now from the inside, it's like what have you guys been doing for the past 50 years or so? Just like spewing nonsense, 18th century nonsense. And I'm not surprised that we still treat people with like electroshock. I'm not even surprised that the medications that are often prescribed to people with like depression and anxiety are so harmful, basically. And again, I'm not discouraging anyone from taking their medication. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professional, I'm not an expert. I'm just saying that when you look at the list of side effects of a lot of psychiatric medications, it's like you're basically exchanging the symptoms that you have for a set of new symptoms that may or may not be beneficial and may actually cause long-term harm. Again, not saying you shouldn't take your medication, just saying that it's just so surprising for me to see that there isn't finances pouring into this area of research so that those medications can be safer. And of course, this is absolutely a problem of capitalism. It is not going to be solved as long as we live in the capitalist hellhole that we do. And talking more about the symptoms, how anxiety and depression in some people may be symptoms of something else going on. This is overlooked all the time. Like, you are given a diagnosis of depression or anxiety when these two can manifest in so many people for so many different reasons that it's just, to me, it's like a meaningless thing to say that a person has anxiety. Like, for example, I have anxiety because of the circumstances I'm in and because of the lifestyle that I had to endure. So I can obviously sit here and complain about this for hours and hours. So let me know what you think, and we can keep the conversation going.